Real. Okay, welcome to Tea in Transit. Friday, January 12th, 8:45 a.m. in Maui, Hawaii. And we have the sun in gate 61.2. So gate 61 is in the head. It's part of the individual circuitry. It's reaching down towards gate 24. And so one of the things that's really important to do is look at your chart and see if you have gate 24 or see if you have gate 61, the current transit for the sun. Gate 61 is the inner truth, mystery, the awareness of universal underlying principles. 61.2 specifically is about natural brilliance. The moon exalted and so gifted by this position, a far-reaching, nourishing influence, free of guile and powerfully attractive. A gift for inspiration that is both attractive and beneficial to others. This is polarized by the early recognition of its influence becomes ego-obsessed with maximizing its effects, a delusion that any inspiration deserves recognition. So we're looking at the contrast between inspiration that's like relevant and inspiration that's just how you say for the sake of inspiration, not necessarily having any attractiveness or benefit to others or yourself. It's just I'm inspired to do this, go. And there's a lot of, I see lessons of patience within the I Ching and lessons of patience within human design, in that not every thought you have has to be acted upon. Not every feeling you get needs to be acted upon. And those are two very pressurized areas. Like if you feel something, you should do something about it. Or if you think of something, you should do something about it, because if you don't take action towards it, then you might miss out on the idea, or you might this whole like fear of missing out that has people conformed to these conditionings that they're receiving from this external authority, be it their mom, dad, boyfriend, boss, peers, etc. So what do I think of the unconscious that is in our body graph? So my 61 is in the unconscious. So when you have a gate defined via your unconscious placements or your design placements, it's essentially saying that this is going to be more of your body that is expressing this and less of your personality. So for instance, 61 in the personality could look something like asking a lot of questions, right? 61 in the design or the body could look more like orienting yourself around people who ask questions, or orienting yourself in a receptive way to receive more of these questions, or orienting yourself because again, it's more so about the physical body, and so it's less of a cognitive conscious process, right? Of like, why are we here? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? And more of like this more visceral pressure, more visceral inspiration, which for instance, it could look like how you say like I have 61. And one of the ways that I experience this 61 is actually through injury. And so when my physical body is injured, it actually inspires me a lot to look for, why did the injury happen? What can I do to heal the injury? And this is pretty recent because I did do something to my neck the other day. And so, it seeks out this, the understanding of these underlying principles in order to come into greater alignment with them. And so again, if you got the 61 unconscious, mine is conscious, or in my personality sector. So that whole element around, or that whole piece around like, if you get injured, that's just a projection that I have of, I don't have the 61 in the unconscious. But again, what we're looking at with the unconscious or design placements is the capacity for your body to have an expression. And a lot of the times as well, we identify more with our thoughts than our body. And so it's important to be able to identify with both of them. And because we are not just our personality and not just our design, we're the culmination of the two. So 61.2, the natural brilliance. I would say making predictions about this week, right? There's going to be a lot of research being done. There's going to be a lot of this desire for like independence, the pressure to achieve influence, the pressure to appeal to others with your ideas and with your inspiration. That is going to, further contrast your strategy, because mental projectors are really the only ones that are designed to use the external authority to make their decisions. Reflectors as well, but it's a little bit different. But each of the other types, whether you have self-projected authority, ego authority, splenic, sacral, or emotional, you have an organ inside you that makes up like 90% of the population, or over 90% of the population. You have an internal authority and internal strategy within you that you ought to be using, because it's just going to guide you better, as opposed to the external environment, which sometimes means like, hey, this external environment is not right for me. I'm going to step away from this external. I'm going to go find a different environment, one that's more conducive with how I naturally am, as opposed to morphing and manipulating yourself so that you can fit in to a group of people. So Blank, what you got here? For example, me chatting with someone I've introduced to human design, and we're talking about the universe, and they come with an inspiration and I come with an inspiration. Does it mean the pressure made us do that, and maybe one of our inspirations are wrong? This happened today. So there's no such thing as like a wrong question, but what you're looking at with this extra pressure is, and specifically here, what we're looking at is not every inspiration needs action. Not every inspiration needs or deserves, or there's even energy for, because the head goes into the ajna. So the ajna is the thing that processes the inspiration and creates answers for it. So for instance, it's like, you might be inspired to like, oh, I really want to fly, right? But then it's it's like, okay, so what are you going to go do with that? Are you, because like to me, I'm like, if someone wants to fly, I'm like, oh, you should just spend time appreciating flight and birds and learning about it. Whereas one of inspiration of like, I dream of flying could become, a diving into becoming a pilot. And that may not necessarily be in alignment with your own inner authority and your own strategy. And so that might be something that, there's so many people in school right now learning about things because of passing transits that, they're like, oh, well, I have to do this because I made the decision to do this, right? And so if 61 is not in your chart, be aware of this, this pressure to unravel the mystery. 61 is like, I want to know the unknowable. And 24 is the connecting gate that kind of gives these realizations and these, it provides the concept that the inspiration is pressurizing. And if you're like me and you have the hanging 61, one thing that I've done is I've gotten used to not needing to answer all of the inspiration that I have. I have so much inspiration, guys. I have so many ideas. But if I tried to capitalize on all of my ideas or tried to act on all of my ideas, I wouldn't have any energy at all. It would all go there. So having the 24 and having the 61 on, it's kind of like 24 gives the answer, 61 asks the question. So if you have 24 right now, be aware of the inspiration, because now your 24 is going to actually have an opportunity to be used, right? Whereas before, you maybe needed to wait for somebody else to bring some inspiration. You needed inspiration from the external world. This is still inspiration from the external world. This is coming by way of the transits, but it's not coming by way of a person. But because of this, do not like start a business or build a, start a relationship based off of some transit movements, because in a week or less than a week, this transit is going to be gone. So Powerful Eagle, your 24 is not going to have anything to reach at after this transit is done. And so enjoy it while it's here, right? But don't plan for the future with this as your main tool. Does that make sense? Sweet. All right, let's move on to gate 62. So 62 is in the throat. It's going up to gate 17. 62 is details, the expression of details. 17 is in the ajna, which is the anxiety to like have facts to back up your ideas, right? And so with 62, the preponderance of the small details, caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. And we're in line 2, which is restraint. This is the innate restrictiveness and discipline to comply with and exalt restraint, the discipline necessary for detailed work. So that's like, if you are, working on a project and at home there's a lot of distractions, the exercise of restraint would be maybe to leave home, go to the library, and do your thing there, right? I also have 62, which is cool. The detriment of this is the intellect stemmed by severe restraints tends to anxiety and restlessness. The expression of anxiety and restlessness when faced with detailed work. So one of the other ways that I like to view the transits, it's kind of like a ghost coming to visit you, in a way that this ghost has these essences of inner truth and mystery and the preponderance of the small, and you're kind of like interacting with the essence or the disembodied energy of this. And so one of the ways that again I look at the transits is having this relationship with these gates as visitors. 61 and 62 for a lot of people are visitors. For me, they're permanent residents. I have 61, I have 62. But for a lot of people, they don't have 61 and they don't have 62. So these are visitors. And with visitors, you tend to the visitors, but you don't stop everything in your life to take care of those visitors. Some of them you do, but not these visitors. You also don't completely, leave them at the door. And if you do leave them at the door and you don't let them in, again, that's something to look at. So I identify with trying to act for a lot of inspiration that comes to me. I'm a splenic projector with no motors, centers defined, right? So one of the things that I do with my inspiration is, I tend to like write these ideas down and mind map them, but without like attempting to make them anything, right? Like I'm not trying, a lot of people, and as well, a lot of ideas I would say are pressurized by the economy, the not self economy, which is like, oh, turn your ideas into content or turn your ideas into businesses. And that's extra pressure where it's like, hey, can't you just enjoy the mystery, right? It's a similar thing that happens with undefined centers, right? So I also have no motor centers, and the economy and the world and social media and everything is saying like, oh, be consistent, right? Have consistent energy. And it's not that I'm not working towards a more consistent use of my energy so much as I'm not drawing my value, or I'm not evaluating my own value based off of my level of consistent physical energy. Some days I nap more than others. Some days I'm up later and up earlier than everybody else, right? And so it's it's just important not to again, whatever it is that your chart is telling you that you are, run some experiments to see how well you can accept that. And similar with the transits, these are opportunities for us to experiment with what our relationship is with details, whether or not the opportunity to do detailed work inspires discipline or it inspires anxiety. And whichever one it is, neither is right, neither is wrong. That's just what it is. And so if you work with what is there, then you work with what is there, then you can actually get to where you want to go because you know where you're at. So I have a 62. I love to make powers. I find I have so much more uses. Is that I don't understand what you mean by I love to make powers. I have mirror 62s directly opposite, so at the same place personality. Okay, yeah. So though pretty sure my chart is wrong, waiting for that. Like you don't have the right birth time. Is that what you mean? As a manjan, I have this go sensation. To rest, I read high-paced stories. Superpowers, find more uses. Yeah, so like with 62, when 62 is part of logic, right? It's about the expression of details and facts. It's taking the anxiety in the ajna from 17, and it's using that anxiety to communicate details to the collective and make its case, right? So, like, for instance, 1762, this is like a lawyer. This is like someone who's going to research and drive through books and exercise their discipline so that they can have a case that is sound, that is logically sound. And this is like opposite to the 5611, not necessarily opposite, but polarized in a sense that the 5611, it's not about facts. It's not about any of that. It's about the feelings that it gives you, right? And so, Blank, if you're waiting on the minutes, I would focus more on looking at the transits as opposed to the how are you like waiting on it? So you have 5611. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So with 5611, it's like the sensing circuitry. What you're looking at is like stimulation and new ideas as opposed to facts and details, right? That's something that would be more natural for you. Again, you said you are waiting for the proper birth time, which hopefully we can get that soon so you can start diving in a little bit deeper here. But with that being said, I think I'm good on 62. Any questions about all this or any comments? So if you're in a 15-minute area, what I would do is generate your body graph at every minute in that 15-minute window and see if anything changes, because there's a chance that only one or two gates might change, or maybe no gates change. In which case you'll have a pretty sound body graph that you can start referencing to. And also for all the new people, I want to say, like, the best thing that you can do for yourself is really just immerse yourself further in your experience and come into a deeper acceptance of where you're at. Like a lot of how you say, people coming into human design, especially for the first time, they're excited. They want to learn a bunch of stuff. And I'm not discouraging learning. What I'm saying is, if your learning is not feeding into your experience and your lived life, like a lot of people are, I project that a lot of people are using human design as a way to bypass actually living their life, and they're over consuming. That's right, Ori. And they're just internalizing this information rather than using this information to observe themselves and actually understand and appreciate themselves. So don't just go and internalize this information. Run your experiments, right? Which for Blank, as a manifesting generator, right? The whole the whole sacral strategy. A lot of the times people are like, I want to know about this and that and that, and I'm like, I'll ask them a simple question. I'll usually say something like, do you drink coffee? And they'll say, I used to, but I don't anymore because I know it's not good for me and it was burning out my adrenals. And then I just ask them again, so do you drink coffee? And they go, oh, and I'm like, great. You know what I mean? So it's the answers that we're seeking is it's in our lived experience, and a lot of the time our explanations of things are taking up space for the expression of our things, right? And so I got into the man-gen yes mode with a shock, and then got into spirituality, but didn't rest and trying to get back into alignment. Yeah, so this is another thing too, is like, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. There's no such thing as balance, not on planet Earth. Even the Earth has its tilt has a wobble in it. We're balancing, alignment, aligning, right? You're never going to get to the point where you're like, I'm perfectly aligned. And I mean, you might get there, but it would be a psychosis. And then you're very likely to, get knocked off your rocker. You climb the pedestal much higher, the closer and closer you get to thinking that you're fully aligned and you have no more work to do. So, and that's also, it's like, that's not necessarily a good place to be in my mind. Like, imagine having nothing to work on, having no shadows to transmute. Imagine having no worries and no sorrows. Like, you wouldn't be a human being anymore. you'd be something closer to like a robot, or maybe not even a robot. You wouldn't necessarily be alive anymore, right? And so after a while, I feel empty and free. So empty yourself of what you know. And part of human design, they call it deconditioning, but I don't really like that word, because I'm not convinced that we can erase the past and the impact of the past. And so my thing is more about reconditioning, about accepting where we're at, and then taking the necessary steps in aligning or living a more aligned life. And emphasis on the ings, balancing, aligning, living. It's a constant state of flux, right? That you get to experience. And so with that, guys, I'm going to say bye-bye. Hopefully we'll see you in the next couple days for more tea and transits. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here. Much love, and I will catch you on the flip side. Hello to all the new people, by the way. Appreciate y'all. Hopefully we'll see some of you guys in the chat. Aloha from Maui.